Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. It's been one of those mornings, afternoons, the whole day. The whole day's been like this. Anyway, completely off schedule live stream. I moved my premiere to next week so I could cover some of this stuff because I think this is kind of more time sensitive. So I'll try to get through it quick and give everyone some tidbits here. So, first of all, for those of you in a hurricane area, whether it's Florida, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina seems to have gotten the worst brunt of it because of the landslides and the mudslides. Um, we need to make sure that one, make sure you protect people and pets, right, and take care of the living creatures in your care. Um, During Hurricane Harvey, too many people. Hey Dan, hey, Amazon's going on strike. That's interesting. Hey Watchman, Loretta, Dan, thank you. Um, During Hurricane Harvey, my daughter was working in the big animal emergency room on the north side of the city at the time, and she said they had. She said by her best estimate, at least a couple of hundred dogs and cats, pets brought in. Now, in some cases, the cats. Hey, Lioness. Hey, Wolfing. Hey, KP. Hey, Lisa. A lot of the pets run away, right? Like if your cat freaks out during a storm and you try to, kitty, kitty, and the kitty takes off, well, the cat, SOL, good luck, cat. But people had left their dogs in the yard. Some even tied the dog to the backyard and left him a bowl of water and food, thinking that was a good idea because they couldn't take the dog to a hotel. And what winds up happening is the water got into the yard and the dog was tied down. He couldn't swim away. And fortunately, they rescued quite a few. A lot of them did not make it. Hey, Brian Barbie. So, one, secure your pets, secure your people. I would like to remind you, if you have livestock, you may want to have a plan for that. There's one ranch in Houston that has literally left their horses abandoned. It's like one of those ranches where you pay to learn to ride, left their horses on three different hurricanes. And so the city this last time fined them the amount of the animal relocation because what they were doing is like, oh, the county will take care of it. They'd leave and leave the animals there, and then the county had to go move them. And they got away with it the first time, so they kept doing it. This last time, the county actually fined them the amount of the relo. And so, yeah, in most cases, that's not normal. These people were definitely taking advantage of the system. Yeah, Watchmen, definitely. So make sure you have a plan if you have livestock, horses, cattle, goats, sheep. You have a plan, maybe another ranch that you can bring the animals to. At the very least, don't tie them down. Like, let them free so they can at least naturally do the defensive thing and swim to high ground. Hey, Canadian. So your pets, dogs and cats, get their shots updated. If you have a physical record, that's great. Keep a digital one as well, if not on your phone, on the cloud. I was certified as a Red Cross shelter manager at one point, or shelter operations. If you bring dogs or cats, domestic animals, to a shelter, they may or may not take them. A lot of them will try to accommodate you. If you have a cat, it would be great if you had a harness for the cat and the cat was in a crate or a kennel. So technically, you could then walk the cat because you can't really bring a litter box into the shelter. Some shelters may turn you away, or they may have an animal area and they'll say, okay, you can go leave food and water, and every 3 hours you go and get your pet out. And, could you imagine walking your cat in a rainstorm? Cats hate water. But, stuff like that. Now, your dogs need to be socialized. And if they're not, you need to muzzle, or they have to go to the animal area. If the animal is out of control and causing a disruption, they will turn you away from a shelter. So, and nobody really wants to be in a shelter, but yeah. Yeah, RIP. I have not heard anything other than there's ground fighting in that part of the world. No more missiles back and forth. I think Israel is planning their next move. I got to tell you, Israel has blown my mind with the pager attack and the radio attack. and then the taking out of all the leaders within weeks, they absolutely crippled Hezbollah, and then they went on foot into Lebanon to take care of more things in person. But I suspect that Iran's attack will not go unanswered, but it may be a little bit of time. So anyway, folks in the affected area, if you download, and you can tell your friends this, if they can download the Red Cross app, there's a hurricane app. It's a little hurricane symbol. It says Red Cross Hurricane. It's really simple. It will give the locations. If you put in the area you're in, it will pull up a map with the address and location of any Red Cross shelters and PODs, which are points of distribution. These are food distribution points, either set up by the Guard, set up by FEMA, or set up by the Red Cross, where you can get food and go home. If you're staying at home and you need to get the kids or the elderly out of the heat or out of the humidity, you can sign into a Red Cross shelter or one of the shelters temporarily. You sign in, you can go to they usually will send you to the cafeteria area, wherever that will be. And you can sit there, you can get some food, you can get some water, you can cool off. And then when everyone's composed, you can then go back home and continue, your hurricane recovery. So a few things to keep in mind. Having a GMRS radio would not hurt you at all. Ham radios probably gives you more options on frequencies, but even an FRS radio can allow you to communicate, because a lot of the guardsmen who were ham radio operators had FRS, GMRS on their Baofangs or on their Midland radios. So they would every now and then scan FRS, GMRS to see if there were any families there. They'd also scan the MERS channels. Was all alone in chat. Oh, Canadian was all alone in the chat. That's funny. So it did show up in I already fed you, dude. Go over there. It did show up in Rumble then, which is good, because the other day it didn't. But in any case, those are a few pointers. Also, if you're going through a POD, a point of distribution, they're usually set up for vehicular traffic. You can go up on foot, but you'll probably be told to wait aside, and then they'll bring you in. Hey, Astatine. Hey, Daryl. Hey, Tracy. And anyone I missed, I apologize. Well, the Watchmen, they're all having strikes because nobody can afford anything. By the way, the vice presidential debate, I'm just going to segue here, was actually one of the more respectful debates I've seen. I didn't mind the debate. I don't agree. I'm not a fan of Waltz, but he was respectful. He tried to make a good point. I respect it. I did not like the moderators, because the way they were presenting the questions was very leading. In other words, they said, okay, one of the questions, we have high inflation because there's a lack of housing. What do you plan to do to fix the lack of housing? That's bullshit. No, we don't have enough housing because you inundated the country with 10 million people who we don't know. We didn't have a plan to put them anywhere. You made inflation and interest rates high to the point that people can't afford anything. And you flooded the country with dollars. And the lack of real estate is simply a symptom of the bigger problem. But they made it sound, it's almost like they're playing a role. They're trying to give us this narrative of, oh, well, we have inflation because there's a lack of housing. No, you have inflation because of government overspending. Remember, the value of money is a function of GDP and the number of dollars in circulation. GDP would, if I recall in my economics class, would be in the denominator. So if your GDP goes down and the number on top of the fraction goes up, it really screws up, or rather it's the other way around. Sorry, I'm thinking of it upside down. If you have too many dollars and your GDP is shrinking, the value of each dollar is worth less, right? It's like cutting a cake, right? You could cut a cake into 4 and everyone gets big pieces. You cut it into 27, everyone gets a small, sad piece. So Hey, Teresa. Hey, Rip Curl. Hello, hello. Vance did okay. I think he did. Hey, Rebecca Lynn. Hello, welcome, welcome to anyone I miss. Michelle, Canadian, Rebecca. So, in any case, going back to the post-disaster recovery, if you or someone you know is in the area, take pictures of everything. Um, I learned the hard way after Hurricane Ike. I couldn't find my insurance papers because I didn't have a bug out book. And I did a whole separate video on my channel for the bug out book, what I put in it. I actually have two. One has insurance and one has family IDs, wills, stuff like that. So I have them separated. Make sure you have electronic copies as well as hard copies of your insurance and the phone numbers. What I would recommend is program the insurance 1-800 numbers or download their app on your phones. Now, remember, reception may be spotty if towers go down, but at least you can take the pictures. When we had the big hailstorm in my area and it devastated the area, tore up my roof, tore up my truck. My truck had $13,000 of repair done to it. I was able to, my neighbor is a coworker. He lives about 5 houses down. He ran down the street after the storm, took pictures of my truck, took pictures of my roof, sent them to me. I was able to make my claim from Dallas. I was 4 or 5 hours away from home. I was in a hotel. I was able to download his pictures, downloaded the app, made the claim, sent the pictures, got a call from the insurance person like 2 hours later, and the ball started, which really helped me. Yeah, I do agree, Rip. So I'll tell you what. Hey, oops. I'll tell you what. J.D. Vance, people don't realize he was a litigation lawyer from Yale. And aside from being a Marine, he's super fast on his feet. He's very well spoken, and he has a really near photographic memory, is what I've heard. So he came in with his guns loaded, and what I didn't expect was he unloaded on the moderators, not Tim Waltz. He beat up the mods to the point that they muted both their mics because Tim Waltz was chiming in like, "Hey, I'd like to get back to the questions. Can we stop with the fact checking?" And then JD Vance was just pecking at the mods, and he went after him a few times. But yeah, Kentucky's survival. Um, Document everything. Take photos. Now, if you have photos and say you can't download the app, if you can forward them to a family member or friend, someone you know and trust, and say, "Hey, these are damages of my of my home or my property." You know, if my brother did that for me, he lives on the Gulf Coast in Louisiana. He sends me a bunch of photos. I'll make a folder just for him and I'll download everything and say, "Okay, I got your photos. Tell me what email I need to send them to, and I'll upload them to that person and let you take it from there." So have a plan. My brother, my daughter, myself, my son, uh, a lot of us live in different parts of the South. We pretty much zigzag from North Carolina all the way to California. So we have already standing agreements, like the couple in California, if they get an earthquake and the house gets destroyed, pack their dogs and shit and they head this way. They're going to make a stop at Flagstaff, which is the other son's father-in-law's house. They'll do a pit stop there for the night, rest, recover, get some gas, and then keep heading to Texas. The family in Louisiana is doing the opposite. If they get hit by a hurricane, they're coming here via Dallas, and they're going to stop there with some friends. So have a few ideas. Well, Rip, the problem is, and that happened in Hurricane Harvey, Beaumont, Texas went down the toilet completely, to where the National Guard and Red Cross were trying to convoy into the city. People were blocking them in trucks and taking out guns from their truck and saying, "Hey, you need to park right here and we need food." And the National Guard was like, "No." And they were in LMTVs, so they're bulletproof functionally, at least from deer rifles and whatnot. So the entire convoy got turned around and went back to Houston. And they did not come again until they got MPs out of Fort Hood and state troopers. And they went back with armored Humvees as escort, which is unfortunate because of the actions of maybe half a dozen idiots. The relief which could have arrived on day, whatever day it was, wound up getting delayed 4 days while they had to put together an armed escort for the convoy going to Beaumont. Same thing happened in Katrina. There was a lot of National Guard. People were flipping out and doing the wrong things. And then keep in mind, Rip, also, and it's tough because a lot of the responders, their families may be flooded out. Their wife and kids may be at a shelter. So emotionally, the responders locally are frazzled, the citizens are frazzled, and people are making bad decisions. And it's very tough. It's tough all around. That's why it's really important. Like, I was in the affected area when Harvey hit. We were the very last people to get called, right? They brought the guys in from El Paso, Dallas. They had Oklahoma down, Denver, Colorado sent the National Guard unit down to help us out. And then once we kind of squared away our homes, at least for my team, they had us doing day shifts at a field hospital by Bush Airport in Houston. And then at 5 o'clock, the guys from El Paso who were in a hotel locally, they came out and they took over for the evenings, and we went home. And the theory was, since my house was in the affected area, they wanted our guardsmen to be able to go home and protect their houses at night because the cops' response time was like an hour. So I got to go home before the sun went down. I could secure my house, check in on the family. If I could grab any preps on the way that we may have needed or repair material, I could do that. Yeah, and Kentucky Survival, it made no sense. Yeah, people in New Orleans shot at the National Guard. That was a bad idea because the National Guard shot back. I know they had some Marines from a reserve unit. But yeah, hey, Lubbock, Texas. Hey, Deanna, welcome. Have Diana from on Rumble. Have a couple of people sneaking in on Rumble here, and B Dubs 58. So welcome to all of y'all. Yeah. So again, have a plan for your animals. Have a plan for people. Have a emergency backup location. Like if we have to bug out, which family member are we going to, or what town will I go to find a shelter? Download the Red Cross Hurricane app or Floods app. They show the nearest shelters to you. They also show points of distribution. Have a radio. These are 101 prepping things. The battery powered radios will come in very handy because on the AM stations and on the FM, we will, like in Houston, we gave a list of food distribution centers and medical help centers that were set up all over the city. Hey, Winning Streak. And the radios were announcing those locations over and over and over on the radio. So people who were in their cars or they had a portable radio could listen in and say, oh, there's a location near us. And they were doing it by section. So they'd say, if you were downtown, you need a shelter, go to this place. If you are on the west side of Houston by Cinco Ranch, Katy, these are the following locations you can go to. If you're by the Woodlands, you can go here. So they broke it down by area. You just had to listen to them go through the whole cycle. And when they started again, you could usually find out where your nearest shelter was. Also, top off your fuel, top off your air and the tires before the hurricane. After the hurricane, check for debris under your vehicle. Okay, I had a lot of guys tried to drive and they had some water debris. They didn't check underneath. Something got hung up in the engine. Something bust one of their tires, and now your vehicle's out of commission, and that's a major problem. You don't want to add, hey, Savagely, you don't want to add, hey, Bug Out, you don't want to add to your problems by giving yourself yet another problem to worry about. I just wanted to throw some of these topics for post-recovery. And one of the most important things, don't take on any project you can't do safely with yourself or with the people with you, right? So if a tree has fallen on your garage, don't try and take it out by yourself or maybe you and the spouse, okay? You need more people, right? Get what you can. If you can safely cut some of it and get it out of the way, great. But we saw a lot of people, including one of the guardsmen. We actually lost the Texas guardsman, had a heart attack because he dehydrated. He was overexerting, and sadly, I don't know how great a shape he was in, but he wound up having a heart attack, and he passed away before we could get him. The other unit could get him to a hospital. So, hey, Savage. So that's tough stuff. That's dangerous. So, if you can't handle it on your own, don't get a heart attack or stroke. Because think about it. If they can't get to you for an hour, you're toast. Even if the person you're with knows CPR, your wife or your husband can only do CPR for so long before they get exhausted. Thanks, Teresa. Yes, Hudson Valley, 7:30 tonight, which would be 6:30 Central, my time. Hey, Jason, welcome. Prepper Book Club, that's exactly it. Don't get hurt. If you don't have the right tools or you don't have the right equipment, document everything. Take your valuables out if you can do so safely. Pack it up and get the hell out. Typically, before a hurricane, at least on the Gulf Coast, if you are disabled or you don't have a vehicle, they will say, okay, go to these elementary schools, and the school bus drivers will take you out of the area, and then they go back and pick up more people. And they'll do that the days before. North Carolina didn't do that because they had no idea they were going to get flooded that badly. And they sure as hell didn't expect mountaintops to come crashing into the highways. Like, what happened there, they were not prepared for because it was totally unexpected. And yes, and Watchman's absolutely right. Over-the-counter medicines will be invaluable because getting to a hospital may not be a viable option. Even if you get there, there are going to be a lot of truly injured people there. If you stay at home, if you bug in, disaster happens and you're still at home, and let's say you have your preps, but you have to go check out, maybe pick something up, check on a relative, bring a full get-home bag with you, wear proper clothing. In this part of Texas, we have snake chaps, and they look like shin guards, and they call them snake guards. They go around your lower leg. They're great for rattlesnakes. I've seen rattlesnakes hit guys on the shin guards, on the snake guards, and they don't go through. They're also great for walking in floodwaters. Now, they're not comfortable when they're wet, but I've seen guys cut their legs open with rusty materials, cut their legs open with other stuff, get bit by animals on the lower legs because they're walking around in shorts and flip-flops in floodwater. Avoid that at all costs. If you got to get in the floodwater, wear closed-toe shoes, full-length pants, and if you can get if you have waders, even better, but the waders can get cut because they're soft rubber. These things are really cool. Actually, if you play hockey or you were a goalie in lacrosse, you could use those shin guards. Those would work pretty well to protect the front of your leg from getting hits. If you're an ATV rider, ATV gloves and the ATV like leg guards will work very well as well. So tree cutting is very dangerous. Yeah, Savage Lee's absolutely right. 400. I'm on tree 250. Yeah, cutting the tree, snake wrangler. Yeah, I'd prefer not to wrangle the snake's winning streak, but even so, you got to be careful because you can just cut your leg open on metal. If you guys remember that movie with, what was the kid's name? He was really young in this movie. I just blanked out on the actor. It was Dennis Quaid, and the actor wound up being really popular. I just blanked out. It was Day After Tomorrow, where the weather gets all screwed up and then these super blizzards come and freeze everyone. And remember, the girl character cut her leg on a wreck of a vehicle under the water, and she wound up getting a fever. She wound up going into an infection state. Hey, Hudson, what's going on? We just shouted you out for your We All Gonna Die Wednesday for this evening. So having protection for your legs, this is where PPE comes in handy, and Mike could probably talk to that all day as doing what he does. Good work gloves, preferably impact gloves, would be great to prevent your fingers from getting cut. If all you have are kitchen gloves, that's fine. It'll keep you dry, but they don't offer great protection from getting smashed. Hard hat, safety glasses, steel-toed boots, at least leather closed-toed boots. always a good idea in a disaster area. And be aware where you put your hands, because keep in mind, humans don't only run away from the floods, animals do too. So just because you reached in that wood pile 20 times and never had anything happen, you don't want to reach in now and there's a cottonmouth, a water moccasin, which is pretty much the same critter, a rattlesnake, a copperhead. You don't want to get a handful of a copperhead, right? Because now you have a bite which will get infected. You could have an anaphylactic reaction to the bite. You want to avoid that at all costs. You want to keep your dogs and pets out of that flood water if you can, because if they ingest it, they can get sick. After the hurricane or flood passes, you're in a completely defensive mode. The goal is to minimize exposure, minimize risk from getting hit in the head. One of the nurses in my guard unit in Houston, she was on a single story. She said the water was about up to their chest, and they were moving back and forth trying to get stuff out of the house. And the roof had gotten so much water. I got the little thumbs up guy again. The roof got so much water in it from the damage of the wind that the sheetrock got so heavy it brought down one of the rafters, hit her husband in the head, and he went underwater. And so she had to go and pull her husband out from under the water. He wound up with a really bad concussion. As a matter of fact, at that point, she had to stop trying to do any kind of recovery because he needed first aid because he was bleeding. It opened up his head. She even showed me pictures, which I won't share with you. Having a bump cap or a hard hat, which you can get at a truck stop, you can get them at Lowe's, you can get them at Harbor Freight. Had he had even a bump cap or something protective, if you have a tactical helmet, you can use that too. Get that whack on the head. It would not have felt good, but he would not have had stitches. He would not have had a concussion. And he sure as hell wouldn't have gone underwater. And, then she had to get water out of his lungs. It became a really bad mess. So brown recluse, yeah, Jason. One of them got me in the leg years ago, and it left me a patch of dead skin. It eventually grew back, but it grew normal. But yeah, it was bad. Crop fingers, neck boots with accents, saurophiles, stirred up snakes, hornets, and dogs, right? Also, insects. That's a good point, Savagely. Insects, right? Fire ants in the south will cluster in water. They become their own island, and whatever they hit, they spread out on. So if you're walking around and you're not paying attention and you get, 900 fire ants in this ball, because they'll latch on, they make a floating ball, comes and hits you, and they just wind up all over you, you got a problem. They will sting the living hell out of you, and getting them off is a bear. So you want to be mindful of these kind of things in the post-recovery portion. And just be careful when you're out there, right? In the workplace in OSHA, they do a JSA. Those of you who worked in an OSHA environment know what I'm talking about, job safety analysis. There's no reason you can't do that. If you got to move something and you're in flood water, you stop with whoever you are with and say, hey, okay, I got to move this car. I got to move those items here, but we're in 2 feet of water. What is our risk? Is there anything underneath that can cut us? Are there any animals nearby? Is the water electrified? Did a power line hit it? Is it safe to go out, or is there debris falling from the roof, falling from the trees that can hit us and hurt us? Do we have gloves? Do we have boots? Do we have a hard hat? We focus so much on the more exotic aspects of prepping. And you think about it, my friend's husband would have avoided a trip to the hospital with a $20 hard hat. But we don't think of that. When was the last time you heard a prepper say, get a hard hat? I have 4 of them, and partly because of my work. But now my wife she's so tiny, she has such little feet, she had to custom order steel toes for herself because she's itty bitty, because they didn't have her size in any store, but she has steel toes. So we know in an emergency, blue jeans, steel toes, right? She even has her little EDC clip on that she can put her tools or flashlight. She has her pistol on a belt. Like this girl would get rigged up in about 10 minutes for the apocalypse, right? Hard hat, mask, the whole 9 yards. She got to work in an OSHA environment for about a year and a half. And she's like, oh, wow, look at all this cool stuff I learned. So these little things, yeah, $20 is $20, but how much would it cost to get stitches in your head? Maybe, get brain bleeding. You know, if she had not seen him go under and she had left the house and it hit him and he went down, she would have had no idea where he was because the water was 4 feet high and it's muddy. She would have been trying to find her husband in the mud water, right? He could have easily floated across the house underwater and she would never have known. So it was dumb luck that she didn't. Isn't that also the hobo? Yeah. So anyway, thanks. I've no idea what it looks like. I wasn't inside. Hey, Southeast. Hey, Rebecca. Joy, welcome. Mrs. Metal, thanks for joining me today. So folks, yeah, hey, Neil, sorry. Hey, Sound of Thunder. No, it's the disaster work, not for the feeble-minded at all. Hey, Wolverine. Thank you, Hudson. Thank you. So having the basic PPE, personal protective equipment, if you've never heard that phrase before, look it up on YouTube. It's really simple. And it's fundamentals: a bump cap or a hard hat, work gloves, impact gloves, the ones with the protection on the back are even better. I'm a big fan of those. But if you can't, just good leather work gloves, closed-toed boots, at least ankle high or steel toes, even better. Lace up so you can lace them properly. Long pants. And if you can get any kind of gaiter or a shin guard or snake guard, great. If you can't, you can even improvise, right? If you got to go, you get magazines like Brad Pitt did in World War Z, and you wrap them around your lower leg and use duct tape, and you get instant shin guards, right? But that can prevent you from getting cut under the water. So I just wanted to leave those thoughts with you guys. I didn't want this to be too long, but he was no recluse. Oh, that's funny. Papa was a hobo. I prep scorpion and centipede pesticides. Yeah, and that's a good thing too. Black widows are nasty to deal with. And remember, your pets can get bitten by these creatures too. So you want to teach your dogs to obey commands. I have 4 corgis. Other than the puppy, the other 3, no commands. My problem is they choose not to listen to the command because they're more interested in a cookie, or they want to chase our own cat. There's one of our cats, they just run her off every time they see her because it's fun. The old cat doesn't run, he's too old. So he sits there and just stares at them. And then they're like, well, that's not fun. Like he knows, yeah, I know how you guys are. If I run, you're going to chase me. So I'm just going to sit here and meow. And, they lose interest. Yeah, cut sleeves off a jacket, leg protection. But be mindful of the basic personal safety items, right? Because you could be working in some water and something pops open or something flips over and dust, debris, garbage, even the wind can just blow God knows what into your face, and you don't have any protection. Your eyes are going to take a hit. This is a case where a N95 mask may be good, right? It won't protect you from a microscopic Rona, but it will protect you from sheetrock, some smoke to a point, a lot of particles and debris. So if there's a lot of debris in the air, anything is better than nothing, but at least an N95. If you can get like a Mira safety mask, and I've got a link for those, all that kind of crap somewhere, I'm sure, but being able to cover your face if it's necessary. More than likely, after a hurricane, everything gets blown away and you're left with mud, water, and a mess. So, but in any case, folks, look, I'm going to leave you with that. You guys be careful, be safe. Hudson's coming on. Oh, Teresa just put it there. Hudson's coming on in about 40 minutes, so 6:30 my time. So make sure to go say hi to him. Don't forget to leave me a like. So the 4 horsemen we did yesterday already got demonetized by YouTube because I guess we said bad words, or it was controversial. I don't know, whatever. They can bite me. But in any case, look, you guys be good, be safe out there, stay with the basics, and do a little homework on what to do after the disaster. We're very good about talking what to do before, but you can get through the incident and then get hurt on the other side because you didn't think, like my friend, oh, the roof is going to fall and hit me in the head because the roof is screwed up. Who the hell thought? People were getting hit by trees. They were getting hit by stuff just falling out of the sky because it got blown up there during the storm. So be mindful of that kind of stuff. It could absolutely, well, not having it could make your life a very negative situation. You guys be safe. God bless. Take care of each other. And let's say a prayer for the folks in North Carolina and Georgia and Alabama, because Georgia and North Carolina in particular, took a bad hit. I've heard nothing more from my nephew, the firefighter, but he did say all his search and rescue teams were getting their stuff together and they were headed west toward Asheville. And he said the National Guard helicopters were staging in his city to fly out there because there was nowhere to land out there that the Blackhawks could land. They would have sunk. So they're having a really bad deal there. So you guys be safe, be careful. Hudson, in 35 minutes or so, we'll see you all later. Take care of yourselves out there.